Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome back to a very short but sweet episode of the Chronicles of a Gooner podcast, coming to you from, my car. I am at the Arsenal training ground, the Sober Realty Training Centre, where I've just finished from the press conferences ahead of the big game against Real Madrid tomorrow night. Now, we are going to bring you the full preview to the Real Madrid game a little bit later on in the day, hopefully in a much better surrounding than this. But there is a big takeaway from today's press conference that I felt that we needed to cover. And rather than waiting to sort of do this as part of the main preview show, where the focus will be on the game against Real Madrid specifically, how we get the better of them, how we set up, etc., I figured that this particular bit that I want to discuss is so newsworthy and is such good news, I didn't want to wait to discuss it. I did think about sitting in the press room, up on the first floor where all the media are working, having just finished from the press conference, writing their pieces, publishing their stories, etc., but it is so damn loud in there, it's just impossible. This is the most incredible press conference I think I've ever been to in a lot of ways. Look, first of all, we're taking on Real Madrid, and by default that means there's incredible interest in this game. It feels like the world's media have descended upon London Colney today, because there were journalists from all over the world, all sorts of rights holders from various European countries in attendance, capturing their content, asking their questions to both Mikel Arteta and the player, as is customary for a Champions League game. And today it was Bukayo Saka. So as I say, we'll bring you the preview a little bit later on in a better surrounding, in a better setting. But for me, the biggest takeaway, the biggest positive from today's press conference is the way Bukayo Saka spoke about staying put at Arsenal Football Club moving forward. My good friend and colleague Tom Canton asked Bukayo the question about his contract, because he asked William Saliba one very similar last time we were here for a Champions League press conference. And William Saliba, I thought, did a lot in terms of reassuring the fans that, listen, for the time being, for the moment, he's happy here. And that's the thing, right? You know, you go into the last 2 years of a player's contract and naturally there's going to be a bit of panic. We understand that football clubs don't want players to run into the final years of their contracts, because that weakens their negotiation position and also puts them in a position where they start to wonder whether actually selling the player is the best course of action. There's no question about it. It doesn't matter how much money you would potentially bring in for Bukayo Saka. The best outcome for Arsenal fans, for Mikel Arteta, is that he stays here and continues to be our talisman, continues to be our leader, continues to lead us on our way. And so there's no question in this instance of final 2 years of the contract. Do we maybe think about selling now, you know, at the risk of trying to do that later down the line, or being put in the position where we have to, and maybe even if that rumbles on a little bit longer, potentially losing him on a free because his head is turned? Or do you just want a black and white, pure and simple, keep the guy? And we absolutely do want to keep the guy, right? So listen, there's 2 years left. Naturally people are going to get a little bit tetchy. Naturally people are going to be a little bit concerned by that and are going to be wondering what the future holds for Bukayo Saka. It's only natural for something like that to play on your mind as a supporter. But the way Bukayo Saka's just spoken about Arsenal Football Club, about how he loves the club, how he loves being here, his relationship with the supporters. He even talked about his relationship with some of the medical staff who've obviously helped him in terms of building himself back up after that injury. Actually, very interestingly, talked about the kind of positive impact that the injury has had on him as well, because he has played a lot of football. He has been involved in some big moments. He has been involved in some big stories. He famously went through a load of crap after England lost the Euro final at Wembley to Italy. Obviously, he was on the receiving end of some abhorrent sort of abuse and some really, you know, shit behaviour basically from people of this country, which was, you know, a disgrace. And I think most of us of same mind were fully behind Bukayo. And what's been really fascinating and incredible to see, I think, is the way that he's kind of taken that on and used it as motivation, rather than crumbling underneath the pressure, rather than buckling you know, at sort of the abuse that he got, and sort of allowing it to maybe lead him astray, or allowing him to maybe feel sorry for himself. You know, you see some people, they're on the receiving end of abuse, and it can fire them up, but it can fire them up almost too much in a way that they then end up being quite confrontational, quite cynical. And although they have every right to be, if they are the subject of the horrible type of abuse that Bukayo Saka got, you do wonder if it's actually eating them up and it's doing more damage than it is good. And where Bukayo Saka deserves immense praise and credit is the way he's been able to take that on, understand the effect of it, the consequences of it, but take what tiny little positive there is, and that's that personal motivation that it can give you. So, you know, he's grown immensely since then. He's become Arsenal's best player. I think a lot of people would agree with that. And obviously having him back for this Real Madrid tie is huge. But the big headline from today's press conference, at least from the Bukayo Saka section, is not necessarily anything about Real Madrid specifically. He paid immense respect to them. He talked a lot about what Arsenal will be up against. He doesn't see Arsenal as underdogs, was one of the really interesting things that he said. He said, I don't think like that going into games, which I thought was really telling in terms of his mindset and his desire and aspirations and ambitions to be the number one and to take his team there with him. It's just incredible to hear. But the bit for me that really stood out and the bit for me that was really, really exciting was when he was asked about his future. And this is the bit that I wanted to share. I'm conscious that the preview show is going to go out a little bit later than I would have liked, because I am at the Sober Realty Training Centre today, obviously covering the press conferences. There's an open bit of training that will be allowed to watch as members of the press. That starts a little bit later on this afternoon. And then I'm going to be at the under-21s game tonight. So I'm just conscious of, you know, when I'm going to be able to get this out, but this was too big of a story for me not to do something quickly. Again, apologies, it's from the car. Apologies, it's probably not the best sound quality, but we've got to talk about what Bukayo Saka had to say. He said whether he could give something to the fans to just maybe ease their concerns. I want to win. I want to win wearing this badge. It's pretty clear. The fans know how much I love them. I think they love me back. We absolutely do. I'm really happy to be here. And then he went on to talk about the fact that it's not really a rush. There's 2 years on the contract. It's pretty relaxed. Everybody knows his feelings. Everybody knows his thoughts. Everybody kind of knows where he's at in terms of the whole debate. You know, should I stay or should I go? And that will give everybody immense encouragement. Let me just repeat those lines again because they're so powerful. I want to win. I want to win wearing this badge. It's pretty clear. The fans know how much I love them. I think they love me back. I'm really happy to be here. I mean, what more do you need in terms of encouragement, really? And it's kind of the timing of these things that I always find really interesting, right? It's been overall a disappointing season for Arsenal so far. Okay, we had such high hopes around the Premier League title this season. Hasn't gone our way for a number of reasons. The more I watch the sort of Premier League season unfold, the more I'm sort of sympathetic towards why Arsenal are where they are, and the more I'm sort of understanding of the circumstances and the kind of the wider picture. And so, you know, there will be people there that said, at the start of the season, you said Mikel Arteta had to deliver. Yeah, I feel like during this contract that he's currently sort of rolling through, he needs to deliver. I do, because I think the club have done so much heavy lifting around him to ensure that he's got everything he needs. For them not to be repaid with success, you know, it would be really disappointing, and it would be a huge frustration of mine, and I'm sure every other Arsenal fans in the world. But sometimes you have to just take a step back and understand where we're at. And so, you know, the timing of things is really important, and the management of certain stories coming out and all the rest of it, I think, is really, really key. Tomorrow night, Tuesday night, the biggest football club in the world, European royalty, come to Emirates Stadium for the first leg of our Champions League quarter-final clash against them. I mean, not that you needed much more to kind of raise the mood, raise the level, raise the interest. But then add to that, the Bukayo Saka's just sat there in front of the world's media and told everybody that he's happy here, that he wants to win, and he wants to win wearing this badge. And the level of sort of enthusiasm and excitement that will now sort of come off the back of Bukayo Saka saying that, and the way that I think will help in terms of raising the bar and the atmosphere tomorrow night at Emirates Stadium and creating that electric environment that we all desperately want to see. It's just a masterclass. in terms of timing, it's an absolute masterclass, and I'm so glad that Bukayo Saka was the player that Arsenal put up. I'm so glad Tom was given the opportunity to ask him that question and get that response out of him, because I just think it does us the world of good. Now, obviously, it's talk, it's lip service until it's action. I know people will look at it a little bit more cynically and maybe feel that way about it. And until he signs on the dotted line with a new contract, you know, you're going to always have that thing in the back of your mind. You're always going to be asking that question of, okay, you're saying it, but when are you actually going to put it into action? It's not just on Bukayo Saka to get that contract deal done. The club have to make him an offer that reflects his value to the club, that reflects his value to the team and his status in the game now as well, because he has become a world superstar, Bukayo Saka. But I'm really, really confident after hearing what we heard today that we're going to get there. This club and this team is on the cusp of being hugely successful. We're not quite there yet. We haven't gotten over the line. There has been a fair bit of disappointment this season because of the way our title challenge just faded away as early as it did. Of course, that frustration is all valid, and I completely understand why people feel that way and see it that way. But we've got a massive opportunity tomorrow night to put ourselves into a great position going into the second leg. A victory over Real Madrid over 2 legs, given their status in European football, and compared to ours, where, you know, we've only been in the quarterfinals twice in the last 15 years, I think Mikel Arteta said earlier on. It's just, yeah, it's a real big opportunity. It's a real big moment for us. And to get that little bit of extra kind of galvanisation off the back of Bukayo Saka delivering such a positive message, and as he was asked to do, putting people's minds at ease, I think is massive. And I can't wait to get down to the Emirates Stadium tomorrow night. I really can't. I think the atmosphere is going to be electric. I think it's going to be a fantastic game. We're going to talk about the occasion. We're going to talk about how to stifle Real Madrid potentially. We're going to talk about how important it is that we play our game rather than kind of going into our shells. We're going to talk about all of that stuff on the preview of the Real Madrid game, which will bring you a little bit later on today, hopefully in a much better setting than the driver's seat of my car, which isn't ideal, I appreciate. But the Bukayo Saka news is so big for me, and hearing him talk in that way was such a big thing. I felt that I needed to get something out ASAP. So here we are, Bukayo Saka. Let me just repeat those comments one more time. I want to win. I want to win wearing this badge. It's pretty clear. The fans know how much I love them. I think they love me back. I'm really happy to be here. And what I thought was fantastic about that is it felt like it was coming from the heart. It felt like he didn't need to think about that particular answer, whereas in other parts of this press conference he did have to think about what he was saying. He did have to ask people to repeat questions, or maybe at times he didn't quite grasp maybe that was down to the way it was put across, but sometimes he didn't quite grasp fully what exactly was being asked, what the point of the question was, where it was going, what it was leading to. So it feels to me like, you know, when it came to his future specifically, it was easy, and that gives me maybe more encouragement than anything. The fact that he didn't have to think about it. It wasn't a generic answer. It was a very definitive answer about where Bukayo Saka's head is at with regards to his future here at Arsenal Football Club. So yeah, look, full preview show to come, but just wanted to get this out to you nice and early from the Sobert Realty Training Centre. I've had to put the air conditioning on in the car so I don't sweat, because it is a really nice, glorious day here in North London. And let's hope that tomorrow is a glorious night at Emirates Stadium. Thanks for tuning in to this very quick bonus episode of the Chronicles of a Gooner. Don't forget to leave a like on the video if you're watching us on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel as well if you're brand new. If you're listening on audio, leave us a review, whether that's on Apple or Spotify. All of that really, really does help. And I'll see you all on the next one. Until then, take care of yourselves and have a great day. Up the Arsenal. Goodbye.